Hey friends, my name is Jackson. I'm not your average NB, and welcome back to my channel. And today I'm doing a best of Redditor updates video, and it might only be a couple of hours, but I really didn't want to skirt it without doing an Easter special. The last time I did a special was, I think, February. I did the Month of Love special or something like that. And I really wanted to do one because I haven't done one in a few months, or at least in a couple of months. I don't know why. But anyway, I was going to do the March break special, but then I got like incredibly sick and couldn't do it. And then I continued being sick, and it's been over a month since I was supposed to do a special, and now I actually want to do one. So, the first one is called Me, 27 Female in a Relationship with a 36-year-old Male for 8 years. Just found out he's been living an entirely separate life with a fiance. Okay, wait. 27 and he is 36. He's 9 years older than her, and they've been together for 8 years. So she would have been 19 and he would have been 27. That doesn't seem right. Uh, okay, trigger warning, infidelity, harassment, stalking, possible grooming. Okay, those are your trigger warnings for the story, so obviously if you don't want to listen to it. The original post was on October 6th, 2016. Holy crap. Going to start this out now with the preamble that I'm feeling like an absolute piece of trash right now. Completely used, raw, and absolutely shell-shocked. Using all fake names, obviously. I've never posted here, so I don't know if that's implied. I meant way back when I was 18 years old. He was in a band that I absolutely loved and grew up with. I had even had a crush on him for so long before we met. You can imagine how excited I was to be able to work with him. I had a small part in working on one of his music videos way back when, interning at the production firm that he had hired with his band. We soon started dating after that, pretty inseparable. I would always hang out with them at the studio and spend time with Ray, in his place or mine, just walking around stoned, happy, and in love. He basically coached me through both my undergraduate and MFA. 3 years ago, I moved in with Ray, and that has been the same situation since. I've recently been freelance writing for a couple news publications overseas, working on selling some screenplays to some studios, and it has been such a strain on me lately, but Ray had been so good to me lately, a total sweetheart. Ray is constantly on tour, working with friends, partners in California. We live in the Northeast. I'm used to him not being home or not having a necessarily consistent schedule. I don't really either. I'm sometimes in California myself with some production work I do with my old cinematographer partner. The arrangement was always nice, and it felt really good to be with someone who understood how hard it is to manage a life on a creative schedule. Honestly, I figured once Ray got back from his business trip, he was going to propose to me. I know it's stupid to just assume that, but after how well things had been going with us, I was really just getting this overwhelming feeling of love and hope that I was just so excited about. However, the other day, a week ago at this point, I was browsing Ray's Instagram looking for a specific picture, and I noticed the tag pictures tab on the top of the page. I'm kind of illiterate at social media stuff. At this point, Ray was in California overseeing some stuff with his new merch or whatever. I felt myself missing him a lot, so I thought seeing some funny, candid pictures of him would cheer me up and remind me of how cute he is. So I click on the tab and scroll down a little bit. I see a picture of this cute blonde woman, Katie, kissing his cheek. I didn't think anything of it at first. He's a relatively popular musician, not like getting on any charts anywhere, but a lot of people in a specific scene at least know of him, so thought it was just another fan. But when I scroll down more, I see more and more pictures of this woman and him. I click on the picture for who she's tagged as. I click her profile. I'm blocked. Immediately, I get a bad gut feeling. I ended up logging out of my account and into my company's. I know, scummy, but now it seems worth it. I click on her profile and I almost throw up. Basically, besides a couple pictures of food, scenery, or shopping haul shots, it's just all pics of either her and Ray or just Ray. I do some more digging and I see that her and Ray are fucking engaged. People are congratulating them. There is a picture of her holding up a hand with a ring on, and you can see Ray in the background smiling. I want to fucking die right now. It's been 3 days since Ray has gotten back from the trip, and I don't even know what to say. He knows that I'm upset about something, I think. He wanted to have sex when we finally got home. We always have a really fun romp once he comes back. But the thought of it made me fucking sick. I don't know how to talk to him about this. I know I'm just postponing something by doing this, but I honestly have no fucking clue how to approach my future. I honestly still love him so much, and the thought of being without him right now makes my head want to explode. I don't even care that he was with someone else if he would just stop doing it and apologize. I understand that humans are not inherently monogamous, and hell, I've thought about other people and even kissed someone one time during an LSD trip a couple years ago. I never told him about that either. Okay, that's completely different. But this seems really unacceptable and I feel really disrespected. How could you just have this entire secret life and just hide it for like so many years? As far back in her timeline, I scrolled 5 years. They had clearly been dating. I wonder if they'd been together the entire time me and Ray were together. I know this is so long and rambly, but I just need help deciding where to go from here. We live together, and I don't really have housing in the area right now that would be easy for me to just go, you know? Should I just pretend I don't know anything until I can find another place and then just unload then? Should I try to talk to him now and see what's going on? And then there's the too long didn't read. Top comments. First comment, he didn't just cheat on you with some random chick. He met someone and started a relationship with them for years and got engaged. You're the side chick. He isn't the love of your life. He's an asshole. Have some self respect and fucking get angry. He lied to you every day for years, over and over and over again. He's all you've ever known, so I know it's scary. But you deserve so much better. You're young and can get over all of this. Leave him. Do you think it's within OP's role to tell the other girl? It's fucked up from her end, too. Problem is, how come OP's blocked from seeing that other woman's page? Why? Was that woman told something about OP? How can the answer to these questions influence that woman's reaction if OP decides to contact her? The situation is messed up on so many levels, it's just surreal. Update is sorry, something popped up. Update June 6th, 2018, almost 2 years later. Hi everyone, this was my original post. Clearly, it's been a wild time since this post for me. I just want to thank everyone for reaching out to me in comments, messages, and even some off Reddit contact I still have with some users. You all were gems and offered me tough advice in a time where I never thought I'd listen. I realize now I was completely manipulated by Ray for many years. I thought our relationship was common for two creative professionals. It wasn't. After I made that post, Ray was needed out in California again. It was the perfect opportunity for me to just pack up all my shit and leave. Once I collected my thoughts, I reached out to my longtime friend John, actually my age, now 30, who lived in Portland at the time. He flew out to the East Coast city I used to live in with fancy maple syrup, whiskey, and my favorite coffee. I'll always remember this little detail. John helped me pack up everything, arranged transportation for me to fly back with him and my cat, to live in Oregon with him, and brought me to the coast to bury a bunch of memories. Photos, film reels, memory cards, etc. It was extremely cathartic. I was sober, feeling every bit of pain in that moment, but realizing it needed to happen. Once in Portland, Ray obviously came back to our former apartment and realized I was gone. Per John's idea, the only thing I left on the kitchen counter was my set of keys and a printed out picture of Kat with the engagement ring. I had blocked his number, but Ray continuously tried to contact me, first in fake consideration for my safety, then getting progressively angrier with me. He did not apologize a single time. He just got more threatening and said he was going to hire a private investigator to find me. John ended up hiring a lawyer for me to walk me through my legal options and spoke to the police about a restraining order, which we did file. It appears the order has worked, considering Ray has not reached out to me since he was notified. I know some of you probably wanted me to tell Kat. I'll be honest, I never did. I'm sure she eventually found out, or maybe she didn't. I have no idea what happened with them, and I have no urge to. You were all correct. I had known some of his friends, but only professionally from working with them. He rarely took me out to social events. I did know his family, though. They were always pleasantly nice to me, but they lived so far away geographically that I only saw them for very special occasions. I don't know if they knew, but I don't want to hurt myself thinking about the disrespect and secrecy of everyone. I was lied to not only by Ray, but by a group of people who I thought respected me. I found a therapist who helped me process a great deal of these emotions, but I'm certainly not completely healed. I finally feel able to talk about this with you all 1.5 years later. It simultaneously feels like it happened just yesterday and a million years ago. Some of it feels like an extended nightmare. All I know is that I'm awake now. Unfortunately, I did end up getting tested and diagnosed with HPV, which has since been treated, but I definitely got it from Ray. I was arrested that night for disorderly conduct as well because I got belligerently drunk in anger. I was sentenced to anger management classes and AA meetings. I was certainly not a full blown alcoholic, but I realized I was numbing my pain with what I thought was recreational drinking. I have been sober for a year now, just got my year chip last week. Overall, this is a happy ending for me, I promise. I started dating John at the beginning of this year. I now understand what being in an actual loving relationship feels like. John is completely honest with me about everything, even the smallest things. He respects me and understands my past. I can't begin to verbalize how thankful I am for him and how much I appreciate him for being in my life. He is my rock and was there for me since my healing process began. For the record, I'm the one who initiated the romantic contact. We slept in separate rooms, had sex with other people, gave each other romantic advice, but at the beginning of the year, we were both single at the same time. He was making breakfast in the kitchen before he went off to teach. In that moment, I just realized he was always my what if guy since knowing him in college. I wanted him and I truly loved him. I asked him if I could kiss him, just overcome with emotion and a lost filter. He thought I was joking at first and barely looked away from his eggs, but then he was like, "Wait, really?" I said yes and gave him a warm hug, and gave him a huge hug, and then he kissed me. I felt this warmth I never experienced with Ray, even at our best. It felt like something finally clicked. Since then, John and I have been so happy, and now I know what it's like to be with your best friend, especially someone who knows you as well as he knows me. I couldn't be happier, and for the first time, I feel valuable. Um, I went back to school part time to learn some coding and stuck with it. Now my current job is paying for me to continue my schooling, and I've been doing some web design work for them as well. My boss is the most amazing woman I've ever met and totally supportive. Guys, I feel whole. I really do. But even more importantly, I feel ready to deal with anything in my future, good or bad. I've grown up in a big way, and I feel like I'm not afraid of entering my 30s. I still have a way to go dealing with an eating disorder, but I've even gained some weight. I'm proud of myself, and I'm so thankful to anyone who has helped me at all. I'm not alone anymore. Thank you for reading. Um, alright. And then there's some comments, obviously. This person's this person's flair is I'm turning into an unskippable cutscene in therapy, which is from a story that we haven't read yet, but maybe we should read actually. I can hear the 90s alternative rock background music as we speak. Yes, this came over as quaintly old fashioned even for 2016. If it wasn't for the denouement on Instagram and a new job, it could have been said at any point from about 1965 onwards. I kept thinking about Dave Grohl. Glad I'm not the only one. I have so many questions. What happened with the eggs John was cooking during their first kiss? Did he stop mid passionate kiss to turn them off? Were they fried, scrambled, boiled? Did they get burnt? I feel like OP has left out some important details. Was the canoe wood or aluminum? This is quite disappointing. I'm going to have to speak to Bob about this. Oh, look, a Cebu. Cebu, whatever that means. No. Is this a VeggieTales reference? Oh wait, that's a water buffalo. Okay. And then there's some lyrics happening in the blah blah blah. And then there was some lyrics happening in the comments as people are singing the song that exists. I guess it's VeggieTales. How does a somewhat notable musician go about 9 years without having his affair realize that she is another woman? She was really shit at social media, like really shit at it. So literate that she understood she was blocked and had the idea to use a different account to stalk someone. And I'm confused. If she was blocked, how could she see the tagged photos still? Photos were posted by other accounts who didn't block her, not the fiance. She saw the photos and saw the fiance was tagged, but when she clicked through to the fiance's account, she wasn't able to access it, and that's how she knew she was blocked. Okay, I don't know. People were talking about, oh, it could have been fake because she was so socially illiterate and blah blah blah. Okay, anyway. I think I've seen a movie like this before. Yeah, midway my BS meter was going off too. Okay, I don't know. Whatever. Ugh. Someone going through a post history said she claimed to be 21 in 2015, 27 in 2016, and then 25 in 2021. She deleted everything now. Something's off. She said she was writing for multiple publications and her original story was riddled with spelling and grammatical errors. Like, I get the idea of stress changing your writing. But you'd think something you do for a career would get a pretty error-free baseline when muscle memory kicks in. Okay. Well, anyway, I don't know. There's a lot. Fuck was that? Okay, anyway, there's some shit happening here. All right, let's see. This next one is new update. My husband of 20 years is cheating on me with our son's 18-year-old girlfriend. New update. I am not OOP. OOP is another person. Originally posted r slash off my chest and r slash surviving infidelity. new update. Thank you to another person for letting me know about the latest update. Editors know, please do not send me DMs or chats. This is a reminder that I am not OOP. Blah blah blah. Do not comment on linked posts or contact OOP. Doing so will result into a permanent ban from the sub. Well, we can't have any of that, can we? Because this is a sub that I love reading and I don't want to get into it. Infidelity, addiction, grooming, harassment, child sexual abuse. Those are your trigger warnings for this story. Okay, recap. The March 17th, 2024, so over a year ago. I'm going to use pseudonyms for anyone I reference in this post. This is the original post. So it was posted March 17th, 2024. I, a 41 female, am a stay-at-home mom. My husband, a 48 male, who we'll call Paul, works in finance. We've been married for nearly 20 years. We have two kids whom we'll call Eric, our 18-year-old son, currently a senior in high school, and Mary, our 15-year-old daughter. They are both the lights of my life. My marriage with my husband has grown somewhat stale over the years for a myriad of reasons, such as his work schedule and how I've aged poorly since we first met. Aw, don't be so hard on yourself. Our son, Eric, has a girlfriend who is also 18, whom he's been dating since they were freshmen in high school. We'll call her Amy. Eric absolutely adores Amy. She's his first love, and she's someone I've always considered as family. This makes the whole situation emotionally excruciating for me. Last week, I inadvertently saw my husband's phone screen and got a glimpse of a text thread between my husband and Amy, our son's girlfriend, and I read what looked like a message of her telling him that she misses sucking his cock. I froze in place in complete disbelief. I spent most of the day convincing myself that I must have misread what I saw. However, I didn't misread it because over the last several days, I discovered a file on his computer filled with tons of BDSM porn. He clearly has a porn addiction. He also has saved photos of Amy from her Instagram on his computer. Although they weren't inappropriate, she was fully clothed. It was still the proof I needed to confirm that I wasn't going crazy. I also looked at his phone during opportune moments and saw more of their interactions. I wish I'd never looked. They were filled with mean, horrible things said at my expense, with him constantly comparing me to her. He would call me fat and old, among other things, with Amy LOLing. I've always had hunches or paranoid feelings that Paul has been cheating on me, but never in a million years could I have fathomed something like this. Last month, I found a thong in our bedroom that I know wasn't mine. I turned a blind eye to it, being naive and acting like it was maybe our daughter's, even though that made zero sense. Not only is he cheating on me, but he's betraying our son. I'm completely devastated. I don't even think words can adequately describe the dread, anger, and shock I feel right now. I'm totally overwhelmed on how to handle this, because obviously action needs to be taken, but I'm terrified of what kind of psychic blow this will be for my son. I have no idea how to even broach this completely fucked up topic with him. I wouldn't wish this predicament on my worst enemy. I can't even believe I married this scumbag in the first place. And then my mind started to race, realizing that I started noticing specifically unusual behavior from him around the same time Amy turned 18. Was he waiting for her to turn 18 before pursuing this affair? Yeah, it certainly seems that way. There's so many layers to all of this, and I'm stop popping up. And I'm completely paralyzed with fear and dread about it all. None of it makes any fucking sense. How did this happen? Am I that much of a stupid idiot that I let all of this happen under my watch? Eric adores Amy, and the thought of revealing this sickening truth to him terrifies me. The impact on his young heart and mind could be devastating. My heart aches for Eric and Mary, who are completely innocent bystanders. I haven't confronted my husband about this because I'm frankly scared of the domino effect. I don't know who to turn to first about this. I share my story not for sympathy, but in search of understanding and perhaps advice from those who might have had to grapple with deep betrayal. Thank you for listening. Further information from OOP. To not have my initial post be long-winded because I didn't think I needed to get into the minutiae of this, I didn't bother going into those details. How I inadvertently saw it was this. He was on his phone. He did not have iMessage open currently on the screen, but the application was still open. You know how on the iPhone when you swipe up and it shows all of the applications that are open and you can close them? When he was closing out the application, something he does compulsively, I noticed it. It's not like he was some kind of idiotic buffoon having iMessage open for all to see. Saw he forgot he had the application running when he swiped up from a completely different app. Also, I did say in my post that I went back to his phone to actually solidify my suspicion on a different day. So you are incorrect in asserting that I am now magically changing my story. I am being consistent. Relevant comments. If she's freshly 18, isn't this illegal? There's no way they weren't doing anything illegal before she turned into an adult. Also, even if so, the age gap is over 3 decades. Your husband is suspect as fuck. Police immediately. OOP. She's been 18 for 5 months now. I haven't been able to gauge when their affair started. I'm trying my hardest to figure that out. He deletes his texts every couple of weeks, it seems like, so I haven't been able to pinpoint when this whole thing started. Additional information from OOP. OOP, thank you everyone for your overwhelming support. I'm sorry if I haven't responded to your private messages. I'll get to it when I can. Dealing with a lot right now, and and taking a lot of steps that need to be taken. I'm trying to be smart and strategic with this truly surreal and terrible situation I'm in. I want to be clear that not telling my son about this was never something I was considering. I didn't mean to make it seem that way. I was just saying I'm intensely dreading it, but obviously it needs to be addressed. It's one part of the many steps in my overall plan. I'm currently playing dumb and collecting as much evidence as I can so I can be prepared for anything and everything. I'm going to protect myself and I'm going to make sure I don't put myself in any potential harm's way. I'll post more thorough updates as soon as I can, but please know you've all touched my heart so much and made me feel less alone. 24 sent me to a very tough junkyard dog type lawyer. I saved screenshots of all of his conversations with Amy. I was only able to get the last 3 months from iCloud. The conversations were mostly flirty and dirty talk. It was hard to stomach, completely sleazy, and I saw several negative things said about me. His call history showed he talks with her for hours pretty consistently. He uses dating apps. I took screenshots of his profiles and all of the active chats he has with his matches. It's very clear he uses a filter to seek out girls who are 18 to 22 or so. I copied all of his files from the computer. He goes on sex chat rooms and forums, and he spends a ton of money on OnlyFans. I rummaged through every possible hiding spot I could think of in the house. He had various toys, blindfolds, cuffs, lubricants, etc. He also had different outfits, which looked kind of like a girl's Catholic school uniform, and a French maid type outfit, too. I picked up Eric and Mary from school, and we all drove to my brother's. They were able to sense something was awry when I picked them up. Yeah. I delicately told them the entire situation and I broke down crying. Mary had the most anger, even more than Eric. I met with Amy's mother and told her everything. She confiscated Amy's phone and gave me the entire chat log. It only dated back 3 months ago, like on my husband's cloud, almost as if they had both deleted the messages at the same time. She told me Amy sobbed when confronted. Amy basically told her mother that she will never understand and that she and him are in love. I don't want to get into too many details with what else she was saying, but suffice to say, it's very easy to assume that my husband slowly and methodically became a sage like figure in her life, making her feel she could rely on him, and he took advantage of the fact that she came from a broken home. Amy is also nonstop insistent that their friendship only became romantic/physical recently, and before that, she said he was more of a friend and mentor. I confronted Paul over Zoom. The look on his face was scary. He became red and looked so sweaty. He had anger and panic in his eyes. His tone of voice was very defensive and frightening. He kept yelling the word context over and over again, and that none of that happened. He was unable to speak without constant stutters and intensity. Nothing really made any sense to me. I refused to tell him where I was, and he said I had no right to take his kids away from him, and then he abruptly left the Zoom. My lawyer is filing for temporary sole custody of Mary and a restraining order. Mary is still the most angry. She's totally furious with her dad and Amy, justifiably so, of course. Mary is recollecting moments and times she watched her dad interact with her friends, and she's in knots about it. Eric is very clearly hurting, but he's so strong and very level headed. He wants to see a therapist. The maturity my kids are showing makes me proud. They don't deserve this at all. We made the authorities aware of everything. I plan on being completely unforgiving and ruthless in this divorce. I'm reflecting on how I've been treated and how it's made me a shell of myself and how I've had a very negative opinion of myself because of him over the last 20 years. I don't want to let this scumbag get away with it. I want to reinvent myself and move on stronger than ever. Relevant comments. How is your son holding up? What has developed between him and Amy? OOP. He hasn't spoken to Amy yet since finding out the news, and I'm not sure if he ever will again. Have you confirmed if the thong you found was Amy's? The situation is fucked up. OOP. I confirmed that it wasn't my daughter's. She said it wasn't hers, and I know it wasn't mine, so whose else could it be? Uh, wait, are you saying that they fucked in the master bedroom? Don't cheaters always use their married bed? Yes, I believe he did. Uh, OOP adds in the comments. Both me and my son are going to get tested and checked out as well. There's no telling how many different women he's been sleeping around with. As for Amy, her mom has been in contact with me, and Amy has been threatening to run away with him because they are in love. And then another 5 days later, March 27th, 2024, there's another update. Thank you again for all the love and encouragement. It gives me comfort and means so much to me. I've received many comments and messages accusing me of faking this story, which oddly also provides comfort because all of this feels unreal even to me. It validates my own feelings that there are people out there who can't even fathom this being true. I wish it were fake. I've been focusing on and worrying about how others are feeling over this, somewhat ignoring my own feelings, which I'm trying to change. I range from anger to numbness like a light switch. We're all safe and still at my brother's house. We're very careful and his house is secured. Paul has tried to call my cell phone several times a day. I'm refusing to interact with him and I will have my lawyer handle all correspondence. He scares me, frankly. My brother has a very secure house with an alarm system and deadbolt locks. We feel safe with him. Both my son and I got checked out and tested. It appears so far that we're both clean based on the immediate rapid tests, but in the coming days we'll know for certain when the lab results come in. I'm not overly concerned. Eric is scheduled to see a therapist early next week, which is very good and needed. Ugh. He's not himself right now. He seems a bit shell shocked, and I am concerned. He internalizes a lot, and it's hard to get a read on what's going on in his head. That being said, he's thoughtful and has been talking with me, asking me how I'm doing and everything. He's not interested in corresponding with his dad at all. He calls only my cell phone. And he hasn't tried to reach out to either Eric or Mary. I get the sense that Paul is extremely nervous. He's scared, and I think he deep down knows that if investigated thoroughly, he would be in big trouble. That's what my gut is telling me. I still think about the Zoom call with him, and the more I think about it, the more it looked like he was a man whose entire world was crashing down on him. Panic on his face was very apparent. I offered Mary for me to make an appointment with a therapist as well, but she doesn't want to see one yet. She said she's open to it eventually, but wants time to herself. She's been asking her friends about her dad and if they experienced any creepiness from him. Her friends were open and honest with her, and apparently they felt like he stared a lot and sensed his hovering presence whenever they were over. One of Mary's friends went so far as to say that she felt like he was checking her out a lot, like looking at her rear and complimenting the color of her yoga pants. At the time, no issue was brought up about it, but in the light of everything that has been happening, it seems strange now. He would sit himself in different areas or vantage points to get a good view of her, she claimed. He also asked questions about what kind of friend group or which clique they were in at school. He kept asking about if they were popular girls. I'm completely embarrassed that they had this experience at our house. As for updates on Amy, which is the main reason why I wanted to write this update, I completely agree that she is also a victim. A lot of people have been emphasizing that, and I agree. I've done everything I could in my own power to indirectly get her opportunities to get help. Like I said, I told her mother, and she's been updating me on everything. Amy, unfortunately, is still living in her deluded reality, and I can only pray that she'll eventually come to her senses. She doesn't want to see any doctors or therapists at all, and con- has been constantly trying to reach Paul because, again, she believes that they are in love. From what I've been told, she hasn't been able to get a hold of him, and he's been avoiding communication with her completely. Amy blames me for that and believes I took away his devices and I'm very controlling. Any truth that her mother tries to convey to her is met with conspiracy theories and hostility. Amy looks at me as a villain and still sees Paul through rose-colored glasses. Her mother showed her screenshots of his dating app profiles and matches, and she refuses to believe it, saying I photoshopped it. According to her mom, Amy keeps saying things like everyone is just mad because she found herself a real man, and that I'm jealous because she takes better care of him than I do. It's in line with some of the conversations I screenshot, where a lot of what Paul says is him complaining about things I don't do for him sexually. Right now, she's insistent that she and Paul will be together in the long run. Ugh, he's honestly a slime ball. I can only hope that Amy comes to her senses, but me directly intervening doesn't feel like it would be productive at the moment. Maybe eventually, though. Ugh. Relevant comments. I'm so sorry that this happened to you. Reading all the previous posts, I honestly get the vibe that your husband wasn't a very good one to begin with. Someday, when you're ready, you're going to find someone who thinks you're glorious as you age. Your son is also going to be okay. He's gotten a lesson on exactly how men shouldn't behave. A painful one, but in time, he's going to realize that Amy was groomed and abused. It sounds like she was vulnerable, and your ex took advantage of a child who was in a bad situation. Honestly, once Amy has had some time to process just how messed up this was, she'll tell the police the whole story. I fully believe something was happening before she turned 18. OOP, I believe stuff happened before she was 18, too. Do you think they kept that relationship secret for most of Amy and Eric's relationship? What a disgusting father and pig if that is truth. OOP, I'm not sure when things actually got physical or romantic, but I do think his grooming started as soon as she came into the picture when Eric started dating her freshman year. This mentor and a friend that Amy alluded to had to start right away, and the way she's acting now, being so indebted and believing every single thing he says, shows that his effect on her had to be over a long period of time. She only turned 18 like 5 months ago. Her behavior and infatuation for him seems so strong that it couldn't possibly be only 5 months of them being together. Okay. And then another comment, if they are consenting adults, then there is nothing to report. This is a personal problem that needs to be dealt with by attorneys and the people involved. People are way too jumpy to snap to the police to fix their problems anymore. OP is handling this the correct way. If any legal issues come into play, then her attorney will do the right thing. Okay, whatever. Honestly, yeah. Okay, OOP. The only thing we can really hang our hat on is the possibility of Amy having an epiphany of the reality of her situation, and she opens up candidly about when it began. But because she's 18 currently and has no interest in saying or doing anything that could potentially put Paul in legal trouble, nothing really can be done, unless they find out about other girls that I have no idea about yet. Okay. And then there's another update, April 8th, 2024, 11 days later. The support again has been overwhelming, and I'm very grateful. Sadly, I've received a lot of negative slash accusatory slash harassing private messages from people here who think I'm faking this story. Someone made a comment on some post somewhere claiming that my story has been debunked, and people believe that person. I've seen an uptick in negative messages accusing me of making this up for money. I'm not asking for money at all. Coming here was completely rooted in emotional desperation, and I didn't expect anyone to get invested in my story this way. But again, I'm not looking for anything out of this. I have no reason to lie. I'm not gaining anything from this. If you don't believe me, that's fine. I don't care, but the only thing I ask is for you to not cross the line and start sending me private messages that are mean spirited or accusatory. The only reason I'm continuing to post is because of those of you who've sent me love here, and the support really lifted my spirits. As for the divorce, it's very much underway. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it all because it's ongoing and I want to make sure everything is going to go smoothly. I got temporary custody of Mary. Paul also has to pay temporary child support. There's a protective order. Paul can't contact us or come near us. Right now, we're just focusing on getting through this legal mess. Again, not getting into specifics because I don't want to mess anything up. But what I'll say is I'm very confident, divorce aside, that there's overwhelming evidence against Paul that will get him in serious trouble, and it will impact him for the rest of his life. Good. I'm sure eventually I can share more about that. I know a lot of people are concerned about his predatory ways, and I just wanted to convey this, even though I have to be vague right now. Justice will come. All of your concern about how my kids are doing psychologically means a lot to me. Eric has been to therapy twice over the last 2 weeks. I know some people thought I was dismissive of him and acting like he's doing okay. I very much know that he's hurting internally, and we're doing everything we can to make sure he knows he is supported and loved. My brother has been amazing in spending time with Eric and Miriam. Both of them have confided in him about a lot. My brother has a very healthy marriage, and both he and his wife have really stepped up to the plate for all of us. Mary has not seen a therapist yet, but she promises that she will be open to seeing one soon. Her anger has mostly turned into sadness, I noticed, and I hope I can get her to see a therapist soon. Her friends have played a key role in this whole thing, and that's something that Mary has been grappling with as well. I know a lot of people are invested in the well being of Amy as well. There are a lot of questions about whether Eric and Amy would still see each other at school. It sounded like they go to the same school, but they do not. Eric and Amy went to the same junior high school and knew each other even then, but Amy ended up going to an all girls Catholic high school where, well, Eric and Mary too stayed in the public school system We all lived in the same town, and over the summer, heading into freshman year, is when they were getting to know each other and when they started dating. I wish I had a better Amy update, but it's gotten a lot worse since the last update. Paul has actually been seeing Amy, despite her mother trying to force her not to see him. She tells me that Amy says she's 18 and an adult and she can do what she wants. Her mother is in a precarious spot because if she kicks Amy out of the house for defying her, something that she has threatened to do, which I think is a mistake, she would just run to Paul permanently. The time she spends with Paul has increased over the last week, despite the fact that Paul initially ghosted her when all of this first hit the fan. There were some days where Amy would just be gone for hours on end. There's only so much I could do with the Amy situation, but again, I do believe things will turn around soon with that, given what I know about Paul and what's to come. I can only pray that Amy will get can I can only pray that Amy can get help and guidance when more shit hits the fan. I'm doing everything I can with my own kids and my own mental health, and Amy's mom knows she has my support, and that's all I could really provide. Top comments. To be honest, the only way that Amy will see how messed up will see how messed up Paul is when he eventually sleeps with someone else or he accuses her of seducing him. Even if he ends as a sex offender, I don't know if that's enough to convince her that he's a creep and dangerous. Now I'm curious as to what Paul's intentions are. He ghosted her and now all of a sudden they're meeting up again. Worst case scenario, he's gonna have her falsely testify, which I don't think will take much convincing, Amy. Honestly, you and Amy's mom did what you could. The best thing Amy's mom could do is sit and wait, but don't kick her out. Let her know she'll be there for Amy and she'll still have a roof over her head. And pray she snaps out of it soon instead of years later when she has burned bridges and wasted her life on a man who took advantage and ruined everyone else's lives. And then another comment, take care of yourself and please don't stress about these internet trolls. They are mean, heartless, soulless humans that have nothing better to do in life than tear people down that are already hurting. Though I'm also a stranger, your story moved me, and I'm so sad that you have to go through this. Please take care of yourself too. Sounds like both kids are doing okay now, but you need to be well too. Best. Okay, and then the new update, April 14th, 2025. So that's like a year later. Wait, when did this update? When did this last update happen? Yeah, March 27th. Then the next next update was April 8th. So yeah, literally a year later. I'm sorry it's been so long since my last update. I didn't expect to continue to have this overwhelming amount of support from people for this long. Thank you very much. I've gotten so many messages on here that I haven't been able to respond to, so I wanted to share an update with how everything is on my end and the kids' end. My quick recap for those who might not remember what my story is. Then there's a recap. I filed for divorce. Blah blah blah. I filed for divorce. I took our kids, Eric and our daughter Mary, and we left. We stayed at my brother's house. I met with Amy's mother, who confiscated her phone and confirmed everything I'd suspected. Amy told her they were in love. She refused therapy, pushed everyone away, and insisted I was jealous and trying to ruin their relationship. Paul ignored Amy for a while, but eventually they started seeing each other again. She was 18 and legally couldn't be stopped. Eventually, I worked with a lawyer. I filed for full custody, and we began building a case. Paul kept trying to contact me directly, but I refused to speak to him. We moved forward with the divorce, even as more disturbing things came to light. His behavior with Mary's friends, the comments, the hovering, the pattern. It was all there in hindsight. Mary and Eric were still traumatized. Mary and Eric were both traumatized, and they are still in therapy a year later about it. The amount of scorched earth Paul caused is mind boggling to me. I'm still rattled by it, and I don't think I will ever recover, to be honest. Paul and Amy dated for several months after we started the divorce proceedings. I tried my hardest to keep in touch with Amy's mom to see if there was anything we can do for her, to realize Paul's predatory behavior and maybe speak out against him to see if he slept with her or did anything to her when she was younger, but she refused to talk about anything. She was in love still. Just a few weeks before the divorce was supposed to finalize, Paul disappeared. He drained what was left of our shared accounts, what I hadn't already locked down, and left. We found out later that he had bought a one-way ticket to Phnom Penh, Cambodia. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I had no idea. I got a notification from the financial tracking alert my lawyer set up. That was it. We were close to finalizing everything. I had full custody of Mary. He wasn't contesting anything. Then he stopped replying, didn't show up to court, never filed anything, nothing. It was like he just dissolved. Amy, according to her mother, was devastated, and she's completely gone mentally right now. She's basically nomadic, sleeping at friends' homes around the area, refusing to come home. My lawyer pushed for a default judgment, and the court granted it. The divorce is technically finalized now. I have custody. He's in violation of the support order, but none of it matters. He's gone. Cambodia has no extradition treaty, no child support enforcement, nothing. There's no way to make him come back, no way to make him pay anything. We have no actual clue where he is in Cambodia. One thing that chills me to my core is how notorious Cambodia is when it comes to trafficking minors. Yikes, that's scary. Eric's in college. He keeps his distance from everything to do with Paul. He doesn't say much, but he study. I know it still hurts. He just doesn't show it. Mary's quiet about it too. She still brings up little things sometimes, things she remembers now in a different light. She asked me the other night if I thought Paul would come back. I didn't answer. I don't think she really wanted me to. I still don't know what Paul's doing in Cambodia. I don't know who he's talking to or what his life looks like now. I've had a few people tell me to report him to the FBI or try and push for an international investigation. I've made the calls. I've filed what I could, but there's only so much they can do when someone hasn't technically committed a crime that's provable in the US. I don't believe he left the country just to avoid alimony. I think he's a predator and I think he's a criminal. That's all for now. I don't have much else to give. I'm still here. My kids are still here. And we're trying. Thanks to everyone for their concern and care. It really warms me. It means so much to me. Relevant top comments. Commenter 1, thank you for this update. I think about you and your kids frequently. You alluded to him being in legal trouble in your prior posts. Is that why he fled? OOP, just my gut feeling that he fled because I think he's been with minors. Commenter 2. From what I've learned studying criminology, there's often a pattern to behaviors of people like your ex. I really think he will be back and that he will get caught. Maybe him fleeing is a blessing in disguise because that puts an actual physical barrier between your family and him. As a mom, woman, well, definite, hopefully decent human being, I would like to thank you for doing the best you could to protect everyone. It must have hurt so much. It's now time for you, for your feeling. I wish you all the best and all the happiness you can have. Edit. May I just quickly add something regarding Amy? Maybe you need to hear it. You've done everything you could. There's a moment in horrible situations like this when we just need to step back and allow people involved to make their own decisions and let ourselves have some breathing space from everyone's feelings. It often sucks because we just want to grab them and shake them by their shoulders until they click into sanity, but your body needs to recover too. Your nervous system needs to recover. Eat well and sleep plenty. I really hope that there's no guilt involved on your part, because if her life is awful from this point on, it's your ex's fault, and I hope that you know it. Commenter 3. Give as much information as you possibly can to Interpol about this monster. I'm so happy you and your kids are hanging in there. I think about you often. Now we're gonna read some comments. God, the way this douchebag just nukes so many lives and scorched the earth behind him. I feel like from the way OP writes, he's been emotionally abusing slash bullying her for a while, considering how in their first post she talks about how their marriage has gone stale for many reasons, including how I've aged poorly since we first met. Like, why would you be thinking like that unless the thought was put in your head? I got that too. Some men honestly believe they are still in their prime while their wives are aging poorly. The self delusion is pretty incredible. Some men impregnate their wives twice and then say, she's let herself grow because her body doesn't look the same as when she was a childless 20 something. Ugh, that's annoying. It makes sense considering they married when she was around 21 and he was 28. Probably dating longer than that. He has always been going for younger women and girls. Everyone will age poorly to you when you're a predator and groomer. I'm glad she at least is free of his presence and involvement, and hope she'll find someone who makes her feel like $1 million. She likely didn't even age poorly, she probably just aged. But to someone who's only or primarily attracted to teens, he's lost attraction to her and that was his excuse. She was 21 when they married. Who knows when they started dating? He may have gone through with the marriage because he thought it was the right thing to do, or hadn't accepted his proclivities by then and was trying to be normal. OP was most likely one of his early victims. They were married at 21 and 28. I wonder what age she was when they first met. The last update made me sick to my stomach. I'm from Southeast Asia. We all know why, out of all countries, he fled there. Our region has been a hub of sexpats and or old white pedosex tourists preying on our poor vulnerable children and women with low socioeconomic status. It hurts and angers me that this keeps happening, and our governments are partially blamed for it. My country has a law that you can be prosecuted for sex crimes even if they were committed in a different country. I don't know how well this functions in practice, but it's a step in the right direction. There are signs all over our airports as you're leaving. May I ask what country? All the others should follow suit. I know you got an answer, Australia, but the US has this law as well. The act of going to a foreign country and having sex with someone under 18 will get you prosecuted when you come home if the FBI should find out about it, and hopefully they do. Of course it's Australia. We actually have decent laws. USA has that law too. I believe the UK also not only has it, but has actually used it to prosecute nonces. Seems to be quite the opposite. We welcome rapists and pedos with open arms. If I recall correctly, the US also has similar laws. Passport bros. Okay, I still don't know what a fucking passport bro is. I'm still trying to figure that out. Because there was a story about that, like, in another video that I couldn't figure out, and it was very confusing. Yeah, that husband is straight up a groomer creep. Jesus fucking Christ, this got worse and worse. Let's call it like it is, he's a groomer pedo, and I shiver just imagining the horrors contained in this person's hard drive. He might like teens over children. He's still a pedo and a predator. We don't know if he's a pedo, but he's definitely a predator. And a pedo can become a predator, but according to data, mostly doesn't become one. What's so hard to understand about that? Proper term for that would be hebophilia or ephobophilia. What? Okay, I don't know. Pedophilia, as everyone has used it as an umbrella term for being attracted to underage children, specifically refers to prepubescent children. Okay, I don't know. And he married his ex-wife when she was 21 and he was 28. I know everyone harps on age gaps, but he seemed to have worked his way up in age gaps. The way she said she's not aged well, I'm thinking that was something he also harped on. Poor OP. People like her husband drain every drop of life out of you. I'm not at all surprised that she feels that she hasn't aged well. My ex was a predator as well, and I aged about 10 years in 2 years. Luckily, leaving him, I have been able to take better care of myself. Hope the same for OOP. Alright. My first thought was those poor girls in Cambodia, alongside with those in the other countries in South Asia. Unfortunately, because of how poor and corrupted some of the countries are, lots of children are exploited and used as objects, and no one cares for them. As a Cambodian, I couldn't agree with this more. I have no doubt her ex picked Southeast Asia for this very reason. What a disgusting, evil man. Yep, Vietnamese American here, parents immigrated, and it's infuriating how many men go from all over go to sea and other places with a thriving sex industry and taking advantage of everything here. When I go back to see, not just Vietnam, but also Thailand and Cambodia, it's real. The leering and staring from disgusting men because they just see I'm of Asian descent. Gross as fuck. Alright. Also, their flair is that's the beauty of the gaycation, which is also from a story that I know of. Alright. Ooh. I just had a new Reddit story pop up from Best of Reddit Updates. We're gonna read this one. Okay, I'm male 17 and my father, male 51, was suspended from church duties for honoring federal workers during announcements at church. What? Oh my god, that's pretty messed up. Trigger warning, religious excommunication and politics. Original post and update. The original post was March 31st. What? March 31st. 31th. They mean March 31st. 2025. The update post April 12th, 2025. Hang on. I'm writing this because of a recent situation that led to my dad being suspended from duties in the church, where he resided for over 10 years, and dad told us, I have two younger brothers, during a family meeting last week. We didn't go to church because of what happened. We didn't go to church this Sunday because of what happened too. My parents are leaders in our church, and leaders often do the post-worship announcements about church programs / upcoming events before the 10th baskets go past, and the pastor speaks. Our church is pretty big with two services, and the incident happened when Dad did the announcements last week. Announcements usually follow a pattern of briefing the congregation on events before asking all first time visitors to stand and receive a brochure or being welcomed by the congregation. If there was anyone visibly wearing a military uniform or someone having alerted the church to the fact that their military relative was home for the week, they asked that person to stand, which usually results in a standing ovation. We didn't have anyone from the military last week, but my dad asked if any federal workers were present to have them stand before saying that God's in control and will never leave them, no matter how bleak things seem, and he also thanked them for their service to our country. When Dad explained his motivation at a family meeting, he said he felt God put it on his heart to honor federal workers the same way our church honored medical workers during COVID, once services resumed, by having nurses stand for recognition. He also said he felt led to reassure them that they were appreciated amidst everything going on in the federal government. However, Dad was talked to by one of the assistant pastors during the week and was told that he shouldn't have done that. That's absolutely ridiculous. My dad disagrees because the main pastor often talks about letting the Lord dictate the service regardless of pre made plans, and other leaders have followed that creed. For example, there are days when worship is really powerful, and the pastor will have the band sing a few more songs than originally planned, or have an impromptu altar call for something God puts on his heart. There are times when someone gives a prophetic word in tongues, a different language, that are also impromptu, and a leader slash pastor will often elaborate on it afterward. Going back to Dad, he said he's been considering leaving the church for some time, and that now was perhaps God's timing. He also said the church has gotten too political in recent years, and he said that played a part in what happened. The assistant pastor who informed him of the suspension told him that federal workers shouldn't be honored like nurses or veterans because, unlike them, they can't do their jobs at home via telework and be lazy. He even said that honoring them was disrespectful to veterans slash nurses, and my dad disagrees. What the fuck is with this church? Dad said he felt led to honor federal workers because many of them were being wrongfully villainized, but he was suspended from announcements for a few weeks. He also thinks the time was right to leave the church, but he wanted to talk to us because of the friends we had there. More so my younger brothers. He thinks they should be able to keep their friends similar to kids who have friends from other schools. Ugh. Personally, I respect him for being open with us, and Mom agrees that the suspension was uncalled for. Dad is mostly stressed about being a deacon and wanting to step down before his term ends. He also said he's nervous about who to tell beforehand or not, and Mom said that they will work on it. Alright. Um do do um Personally, I respect him for being open with us. Dad is mostly stressed about being a deacon and wanting to step down before his term ends. He also said he's nervous about who to tell beforehand or not, and Mom said that they will work on it. He doesn't want to burn his bridges, but he doesn't know how to go about it. I know I don't have much of anything to contribute to how he steps down aside from supporting him, but I wanted to ask if anyone had any experience with stepping down or any ideas I could suggest. I would appreciate any that are given. And then for 1222, which I think is meant to be 25, because why would the update be 3 years before the original post? I really appreciate all of the perspectives given on my first post, and I shared some of them with my parents, including one in particular I'll highlight. My dad took a few days to pray over what he should do, and he learned something from one commenter who gave insight to it into something he didn't see. The comment said it could be dangerous for a federal employee to stand up and be identified in that manner as OSPEC, operational security, is taught to federal workers, and especially in this current political climate. The commenter also suggested the possibility of a crazy person potentially following them into the parking lot or home. Dad said he didn't consider that and thought it was perhaps a reason why he was suspended, although the assistant pastor never mentioned it. He eventually decided on meeting with the senior pastor to discuss the suspension, and we had another family meeting to discuss it shortly afterwards. During the meeting, Dad reiterated much of what the assistant pastor said and how he disagreed with him, saying that federal workers shouldn't be mentioned in the same breath as nurses slash veterans because they can't telework and be lazy. But Dad also mentioned his mistake of potentially putting pressuring federal workers to stand, which could have put them in a very dangerous position, and asked if that had anything to do with the suspension. Ugh. but the pastor told him that it had nothing to do with the suspension and that he signed off on it before the assistant pastor told him. Long story short, he basically reiterated what the pastor said about how it's insulting to honor federal workers in the same breath as nurses slash veterans. What the fuck is with this church? Wow, this is not Christian at all. Um, but when Dad pointed out what another comment informed us, how many federal workers were veterans and nurses and firefighters, whom our church also honors from time to time, Pastor didn't change his tune. Dad explained how he felt God told him to honor federal workers who were being unfairly villainized, but he didn't see it that way. After Dad told us how it went, Mom said they made the decision to stop attending immediately because she believed that their handling of this was disrespectful. Yeah, I 100% agree. What the fuck is this shit? What is wrong with this church? They are not acting Christian or in a way that God would approve of. Um, anyway, Dad's been in the church for over 10 years, currently serves as a deacon, and was once a trustee too. It is also hypocritical how other leaders are allowed to follow the Holy Spirit if God puts something on their heart, such as impromptu altar calls or going off on a tangent about something random God wants someone in the congregation to hear. Usually a very spot on assessment, like someone proclaiming that a nurse in the congregation has a big life decision they're stressed about or something. I told a few commenters that the same senior pastor used to have a thing about not talking politics and would say that we are to pray for whoever is in office because God can use anyone for his glory. But ever since the current president began running for re-election, he slowly changed his tune and began promoting him during service, one of the many reasons Dad felt led to leave for a while. Senior pastor has served in our church for over 30 years, and his recent change has hurt Mom and Dad to see. At the end of the meeting, Dad said that we'd take some time off from attending church until they decided on some new ones to try. So that's pretty much it, but I wanted to address another thing that people mention regarding our church. I mentioned that our church often honors many people, and some said that that was off putting. I mentioned this to Dad, and he actually agreed that some of it seemed contrived. If a couple has a milestone wedding anniversary coming up, they'll often tell the church during the week and ask to be recognized during service. So a leader will have them stand the same way they ask veterans if we see one in uniform, or their family tells the church that their military relative will be there that Sunday. And the wedding anniversary requests personally sound a bit awkward slash attention seeking. Regarding veterans, the church once received a complaint from a veteran who didn't wear a uniform to church, but was blindsided when their family called the church during the week to ask him to stand by name to be recognized, and he said that he wouldn't attend anymore as a result because he just wanted to attend in peace. The church does the same for nurses and milestone birthdays, but they didn't stop following that complaint. As a matter of fact, the church continued with the tradition because the senior pastor said that the standing ovations for the veterans often brings up the energy in the service, and he compared it to how SeaWorld opened their One Ocean show with a tribute to veterans, asking them to stand at the beginning. Dad disagreed and said God doesn't need artificial things to bring up the energy in the service, but the traditions continued nonetheless. That's just one of many things with this church, and Dad thinks now is the right time to leave. I appreciate the perspectives that were given as it really helped us reflect on everything that happened. And then there's some comments. Number and then there's some comments. Number one, I'm proud of your father for doing what he feels called to do. In my church, we pray for our nation's leaders every Sunday, not because we like them, but because we need God's guidance if we're ever going to come together. I feel terrible for all the federal workers that are just trying to support their family in this reality TV atmosphere. I will be praying that you and your family find another church home. Number two, I'm sorry to hear about this. An absurd overreaction. I would want to ask everyone involved in this how their actions pointed toward Jesus. For abundant reasons, I would say that it is time to leave. My advice is to always be open and honest about reasons for leaving, which would include addressing this incident, being honest that it was not the precipitating factor, but ask people to focus on where the gospel of God's peace and saving grace is being preached. Know that somewhere nearby is a community that has never met you, but is praying for your family and all those trying to speak the truth and honor God. And number three, as a federal employee, thank you, Father, for me and all others in our situation. In this environment in the United States, it has been tough to deal with the public. Number four, praying for people who have been thrown into dire financial situations and wrongly maligned is a thoroughly Christian act. Condemning someone for that is simply a result of political malice and prejudice. It has no place in the church. Number 5, it sounds like he has made a lovely gesture. If I were a federal employee, I would feel grateful and supported for prayers during what is chaotic time for them. I myself am angry that even if you believe government needs to be downsized, there is no excuse for the gleeful, degrading, belligerent attitudes people have towards workers who are losing their livelihoods. I expect these same people to begrudge even the most basic social services as these families deal with sudden loss of income. I apologize for getting off topic. Y'all sound like a lovely, spiritually mature family, and I hope you are able to navigate this situation with certainty and God's peace. And then the other the following comments are comments from federal workers who lent their opinions in r/Fed News. Number 1, your father is a brave and kind man. You should be very proud. Unfortunately, you may experience a similar attitude at other charismatic and evangelical churches, but I promise you there are congregations out there who would appreciate your father's thoughtful and reasoned takes while encouraging similar thoughtfulness and reason in other areas of life. Number 2, tell your dad a huge thank you. Federal workers are veterans and nurses, and truck drivers, firefighters and police, secretaries, accountants, and physical therapists. Your assistant pastor will only realize that once these folks are all gone and things fall apart. This church is moving away from Jesus' teachings, and it's very sad when that happens. But your parents will either influence the situation or find a more like-minded tribe. Your dad is a great example for you and others. It's hard to stand up for what's right, but that is what Jesus did. Number 3, in this climate, and especially in a venue such as that, it could be dangerous for a federal employee to stand up and be identified in that manner. OSPCA, OPS, OPSEC, operational security is a thing they beat into us in government service. I appreciate what your dad was trying to do to honor federal employees during hard times, but it doesn't seem like he thought it through. He had to have known that that was going to be the reaction in that venue, and that outing a Fed in a hostile environment can be dangerous to them. What if after he outed them in church, some crazy person accosted them in the parking lot or followed them home and set their house on fire? OP replied, "Thank you for making me aware of this. I never thought of that and am not sure that he has either. I'll bring it to his attention as something to consider going forward for the reasons you mentioned." And then number 4, thank you, Father, for me. Tell the leaders of the church they are unpatriotic. I serve my country for the same reasons people join the military. In fact, I am from a long line of service veterans, and I became a federal employee following in my grandfather's and father's footsteps. It is how I can give back, since I couldn't serve in the military. Number 5. It's been a rough few weeks, and when people like your dad speak up, it does give me encouragement that the work we do, helping people, is appreciated. And the fact that your dad took the risk to stand by his integrity speaks volumes. The church will be greatly reduced if he is removed. No helpful advice, but I'll keep you all in our prayers. We've got to take care of each other. We've got to take care of one another during tumultuous times. Number 6. First, you are a very thoughtful and kind young man. Your father is certainly doing something right. I do not mean this to sound flip in any way, but I think for the sake of your family's faith and integrity, you need to find a church that is aligned with Jesus' teachings. Your church is picking and choosing people who are better or worse than others. God doesn't do that. The way your church treating members on of the military borders on idolatry, which also shouldn't be a thing in Christianity. Did you know that a huge number of the persecuted federal workers literally spent their careers trying to heal the sick and help the poor? Take a look at your Bible and see how many times Jesus does these things and demand and see how many times Jesus does those things and commands you to do the same. Compare it to how many times he orders you to join the military. That's such a good point, actually. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that everything your assistant pastor said was 100% true. What your dad did would still be the right thing to do. It is exactly the worst people in society, including literally tax collectors, who Jesus spent his time with. Welcoming evil or lazy federal workers and letting them know that they are loved and valued would still be a deeply Christian act. Bottom line, God guided your father to do something, and the fallible men of the church scolded him and castigated him. Find a church that's on God's side. The last part of OP's post is really telling. The fact that veterans have said they don't want to stand or be recognized, but the church insists on it anyway to bring up the energy during the service, is wild. They're directly acknowledging the way that they're using the veterans as props rather than to truly honor them. That said everything you need to know. And then OP says, was honestly the thing that popped out to me the most. It was never because the senior pastor, maybe the leaders had good intentions, wanted to honor veterans. The fact that the one person who complained said that he would never come again as a result wasn't enough to make him reconsider. To be fair, using vets as props is part of American culture. I have come to cynically call anyone an American hero if they are in a job that gets lip service from politicians, but no actual support. Veterans are firmly in that camp. Teachers used to be before Trump, now they don't get lip service. Children are frequent members. Retail workers got to join for COVID, and so on. Ugh. Yeah, my husband is active duty, and he hates when people pull that stuff. It's never actually about the veteran. Even as a military spouse, sometimes people are weird as fuck about it. I had a checkout person demand to hug me once when they noticed that the card I was using was from a military credit union. I tried to politely make excuses and refuse while backing away, but they did it anyway. Ugh, ew. Wow, okay. Ugh. Not saying you did anything wrong in that situation, you basically did what you could, but that is where I would get very loud and basically yell, "I said no, get away from me!" Or like, if they go to hug you, you just fucking punch them because it's self-defense at that point. I said fucking get away from me. Fucking stay away from me. No, I am not putting up with that bullshit. And people with autism are especially vulnerable to that stuff. Like, I do not like being touched without being asked first, and sometimes I'll even say no, and if I say no, you better not fucking touch me, or I'm gonna swing wild. Like, seriously, I don't want to get screwed around by people. Like, I'm not screwing around here. If you touch me, you know what? You fucking deserve a smack in the face. If you touch me, if you ask me and I said no, or if you touch me without asking, it really pisses me off. Like, I don't usually do that to people who touch me without knowing, even though I think that it's respectful to just ask permission before you touch someone, regardless of your intentions. But like, when if someone's gonna like touch me when I asked and they said no, and if I was with this cashier checkout girl, I would just fucking punch her in the face because you know what? You fucking deserve it. I said no, or I would say yes. Like I'm pissed off. Like it just pisses me off when people think they can just do whatever they want. When people just are like, oh my God, I'm gonna do this thing anyway. You asked me not to touch you, well, I'm gonna fucking do it anyway. Doesn't matter if you're hugging me. The fact is you're touching me without my permission, and I have every right to defend myself in that situation. I'm not religious, but it's always infuriating when someone in a congregation does something completely consistent and in line with the beliefs and prior acts of the church, and then someone in power says, no, not like that. And then OP says, especially when OOP mentioned that the church gives their leaders permission to follow the Holy Spirit in whatever direction he guides, puts on their heart during the service, but not when it came to her father most recently. No, you're wrong. God only agrees with my worldly politics. It's a crazy position to take. Like, at that point, you're not a church, you're a political group. Which is why there's laws about nonprofits and them not being allowed to politically campaign and keep their nonprofit status. Fucking ridiculous. God only agrees with my politics is the essence of what religion always has been and always will be. If your politics are welcoming you, imagine God is welcoming. If your politics are cruel, you imagine God is cruel. Ugh, stop Godding wrong. Yeah, basically, like, what the fuck? Okay, and honestly, no, their behavior is the unchristian behavior. Anyway, that's the fact of the matter, that what your dad did was honestly very Christian, and what what the church did, that was very unchristian. So yes, they're in the wrong in that situation, and your dad is in the right. I mean, like people said in the comments, he shouldn't have done it because it is quite dangerous, actually. Like, yeah, he's right. Someone could follow them home and assault them or something, since, they know who they are. And a lot of people are still against that. I like to think that people who are in church, like, they don't want to be in that far. People who are in church, they wouldn't do something like that, but unfortunately, that's not always the case. Like, it is the situation that you could still have some problems with that because I've met people who claim to be Christian but weren't very godly. I mean, my dad is the obvious choice that stands out there, but I can't remember if I ever talked about, I'm pretty sure I talked about my support group. Um, Maybe I didn't. But back in October and I'm pretty sure November, I think I went for a few weeks. But back in October, I started going to this support group, which it wasn't just for like alcoholics or whatever. It was basically for anyone who had any issue. And some people there were dealing with various things. And I'm not going to give names or anything or situations because I don't want to give out a lot of personal information. But honestly, I was there for a lot of problems for my eating and for my other anger issues and my problematic behavior because of my mental health, which isn't an excuse, which is why I was trying to get help to deal with it. And I left because a woman refused to use my they them pronouns, and she was all like, God created men and women, and I refuse to use that non-binary person. Very respectfully, she even said respectfully, and I said, that's not respectful. And she said, I'm sorry you feel that way. And I tried contacting their church, but they agree with her and they're very LGBTQ phobic. So I can't go back to that group, and I don't have another group to go to. So now I don't have anywhere to go to deal with my issues. So until I find another group, which is probably never gonna happen, I don't really I don't have a place to go or anything. So I'm just gonna keep venting to you guys on my channel because that's the best I can do right now. Honestly, that's the best I can do right now. All right, I think we're gonna read one more because I've got another one here. I'm just gonna see how long this story is and make sure it's not like exceedingly long or anything. Okay, so I'm a 27 female, and my 26-year-old ex, who's a male, dumped me in January after 9 years together because he didn't think I was wife material. Now he reached out wanting to talk because he needs to get something off his chest. Okay, blah blah blah, not the original poster, obviously. And latest update is 7 days old. Trigger warning, infidelity, stalking. Okay. Original post, April 8th, 2025. My ex dumped me in January after 9 years together because he didn't think I was wife material. Now he reached out wanting to talk because he needs to get something off his chest. I don't know why he's doing this or if I should meet him. I was with my ex, who I will call Nate, because if I'm being honest, betraying a friend, I was a Cassie. Editor's note, I believe this is a Euphoria TV reference. I don't watch it, but that's what Google says. This has no bearing on the story. I don't want to go too much into the details, but for the last 9 years, I lost myself to Nate. He was my world. Everything I did was for him. I helped him through depression, helped to keep his grades up, even worked 2 jobs so he could focus on college when his parents disowned him for nearly 3 years because they couldn't agree with the major or college he chose. Bear in mind, I was also a college student. Also, bear with me because this is a little jumbled, and sometimes the grammar isn't great, and sometimes it's confusing. So, when his parents started talking to him again and started to financially support him, we moved into a new apartment. Nate said he wanted me to quit my job. I didn't, because it was his turn to take care of me. For 16 months, everything was great, and he spoiled me. Then I noticed he was more interested in his new friends. At times, he ignored me completely. Back in December, he did a 180 and he love bombed me the whole month. He really went out of his way to make Christmas magical for me. I honestly believed he was going to propose on January the 2nd. He made me my favorite dinner and made this speech about me being his first love. How I've been there since high school. I kept thinking any minute now he's going to ask me to marry him. But no, he dumped me as his speech went on. My world fell apart. And as much as he tried to sugarcoat it, he basically said, You were a good girlfriend, but that's what you always be to me, a girlfriend. I don't see you as my wife or the mother of my children, blah blah. You served your purpose. Now I don't need you anymore, blah blah. I need someone on my level. Oh, I need someone on my level, blah blah. You're a gold digger, blah. I'll give you 30 days to move out. I couldn't speak and he stared at me looking for a response. I think this lasted 20 minutes before he said he'd sleep in the guest room, then left. Strangely, I didn't cry or get angry. I just ordered cardboard boxes online and then went to bed. The next day, I waited for him to leave the apartment before I left my room. Then I called my boss, asked, begged really if I could transfer anywhere. She told me there wasn't anything, but if something came up in my department, she'd consider me. I then reached out to everyone I knew that wasn't also Nate's friend for a place to stay. My cousin invited me to stay in her spare room for as long as I needed, and I could move in straight away, so that was amazing. In the 4 days it took me to pack my stuff and move out, I didn't see or speak to Nate. I doubt he even noticed. I didn't trust myself at the time to ignore you up text, so I blocked him and everyone close to him and even changed my number/email to make sure he couldn't reach me. The first night at my cousin's was the night everything hit me. I think I cried every night. The first month, I honestly felt like shit. I thought about what Nate said over and over again, and it made me feel so low, like I was nothing. He only stayed with me because I was just there, but thankfully my cousin sent for my mom, other cousins, and real friends to give me an intervention which I badly needed. I believe that first month I wouldn't have made it without my cousin. I'm still healing and waiting on that job transfer because I feel like if I'm not in the same city as Nate and I have a place of my own, the first start would do me a world of good. I thought by now I'd be a distant memory for Nate, but shockingly he sent flowers to my job today for my birthday, which was on Sunday. Apparently he went to my parents' house looking for me too, and my mom admitted he's been before dropping off stuff and tried to ask questions about me, but they told him to fuck off. Flowers came with a card saying, Dear Cassie, happy belated birthday. I've been talking about you for nonstop for the last few months. I've been thinking about you for nonstop for the last few months, especially with how everything ended. I need to get something off my chest that I feel will haunt me for the rest of my life if I don't tell you this to my face, but I've no way of contacting you. If it's possible, can we meet up in the near future? Nate. What could he want? What's haunting him he needs to say to my face? Everyone in my life is telling me to ignore him, but they hate him. I'm torn, but I can't lie. My curiosity is telling me to meet him to see what he wants. Has anyone been in my shoes or in Nate's? Some of OOP's comments. Top comment. Not gonna lie, I didn't read all that, but I just wanted to say just because he needs to say something doesn't mean you need to hear it. I doubt it's anything that would add value to your life. He's likely wanting to alleviate guilt for some long ago trespass. OP, my cousin thinks he tried to monkey branch and it didn't work out. Editor's note, monkey branching means he was already emotionally connecting, at least, with someone else before breaking up with OOP. Commenter, seems like he cheated on you back in December before the love bombing. Now this dumbass cheater is probably engaged to the affair partner, hence the wife material comment. Fuck him, let him implode that relationship just like he imploded yours. He's not a good human, and he's trying to make himself feel better about something. He doesn't deserve it, and he doesn't deserve your time or energy. You know what's and OOP says, you know what's pathetic? If he cheated and told me that was the reason he was breaking up with me, I don't think it would have hurt me as much. Get checked for STDs. OOP. Oh, I didn't think of that. Now I'm panicking. And then another comment. Besides the STD test, which I agree with, because I also suspect he was cheating. Let your job know to turn him away if he shows up. The last thing you need is him stalking you. You don't owe him closure. He wants to absolve himself of his guilt by dumping it onto you. It's not your burden to bear. Whatever is torturing him is of his own doing. You have no idea how he will handle whatever he wants to tell you. What if you slip back into despair? Are you willing to let your curiosity potentially expose you to further emotional trauma? Ultimately, it's up to you to meet up with him. Take some time to process all of this before deciding. And then someone says, Is he blocked everywhere? Blocked on social media, and my accounts are set to private new number, and his number was blocked and deleted. I didn't trust myself for the first few weeks because back in January, you up text would have had me running barefoot at 2 a.m. Mini update in the comments, April 9th, 2025, the next day. He came to my work today looking for me during lunchtime. I told the receptionist to say I was out and caught a ride home with a coworker so I wouldn't meet him if he planned to run into me by accident. Update post April 14th, 2025, 5 days later and 6 days from the original post. So we ended up meeting, and no, I didn't go to him. I told the receptionist at my work if he came looking for me, just say I'm out for the day after he showed up once. I didn't want the drama of him around my job. Uh, so Nate just kept going to my usual places like the grocery store I go every Saturday evening or the park I went at Saturday mornings, his words, till he would eventually run into me. And he did yesterday. He was waiting at the coffee shop I go to after my morning run. When I saw him, I tried to turn around and leave, but he kept calling me, so I thought to myself, if everything went pear-shaped, a coffee shop would be safer than my walk home. So I just sat down and asked him what he wanted. And asked him what he wanted, and he gave an apology that wasn't an apology, but the type with "I'm sorry, but" and "hitting me." He blamed his mental health, his job, his parents, his friends, everyone but himself. Oh, you mean like my sister used to do? Yeah, I know those apologies. those apologies that aren't actually apologies. I took someone's advice on you and said, cut the crap, I already know everything, and he genuinely looked shocked and stared at me for a second. I guess he thought his coworker already told me everything, so he couldn't lie. Here's what really happened. He fell for a girl in his office when he told me her name. I knew her immediately. I've met her a few times. He told her for the last 2 years he idolized her. To be fair, she's beautiful with an amazing personality. And he hated me because I was the one stopping them from being together, because his coworker was too classy to be a side piece. When he broke up with me, he confessed to her that he was madly in love with her, and he ended a 9 year relationship to be with her. Well, here's where it gets funny. She doesn't even like him, lol. She called him a piece of trash and told him if he ever spoke to her outside of work, she'd report him to HR. So I asked him, what does any of this got to do with me? Like, are we over? I clearly cut ties. There's no reason for us to speak. He wants to try again. He promised we'd get married before the year ends and that we belong together. I told him, no, I'm nobody's second choice. He threw me away after 9 years and said some pretty cool things to me, and now he thinks if he snaps his fingers, I'll come running back. He tried to beg and fake tears, bringing the good times in our relationship. Fucking good for you. Good for you for standing up for yourself, for doing exactly what you needed to do, taking care of yourself, for not taking him back. He is not worth it. What just happened? The Reddit left. Wait. I left Reddit. Okay. I told him to please leave me alone as he's wasted too much of my time already. I texted my cousin to meet me at the coffee shop, and he kept saying nonsense, even suggested if I went to couples counseling for a few months, he'd leave me alone. The 20 minutes it took for my cousin to arrive felt like 20 years. In the end, I just stopped listening and stood at the counter making small talk with baristas till my cousin arrived. She told him to fuck off, and if he tried to follow us, she'd call her brothers. Also, your cousin is amazing. So everything, a lot of credit goes to her in this, and I love her. And thank you, OOP's cousin, for like saving her life, basically, and everything that you did for her. You are amazing. You're a real one. W cousin. Okay, he stayed in the coffee shop, as far as I know, and we just went home. That's it. It's only been a day, but I feel like it's over and I'm free of him. Some of OOP's comments. You being stalked, change your routine. OOP. Yeah, I'm gonna do this as I run at 6 a.m. So not a lot of people around gonna miss that coffee shop. Though they made the best breakfast wraps, but I'm not taking any chances and I'll go grocery shopping with my cousin. Commenter, you dodged a bullet. I hope your job has an opening in another city soon. OOP, me too. I've been talking to people on here and in real life. Kind of a bit freaked out with the stories of how bad things can get. Hopefully he will just leave me alone. Editor's note, Mark just concluded because OOP met with her ex, which was the initial question. Editor's note 2, to reiterate, this has not been posted here before. The sub has a 7-day waiting period, and that period has just passed. You may have seen it on the other sub with a similar name in the wild or on looking for a post, which is on this sub. Okay. Let's see. Let's read the comments. When he broke up with me, he confessed to her that he was madly in love with her, and he ended a 9 year relationship to be with her. Well, here's where it gets funny. She doesn't even like him, lol. She called him a piece of trash and told him if he ever spoke to her outside work, she'd report him to HR. Hey, you know what? That is very funny. X, I ended things with my girlfriend. Now we can be together. Coworker, what's your name again? This kind of reminds me the whole thing about like him coming to her and ending the relationship and then like her completely rejecting him because she's just not that into him. It reminds me of this other story that I love from Reddit that I find hilarious where hang on. I just had it in my head, I swear, and then it's not around anymore. Hang on. It reminds me of this other post where this guy is posting about how he's totally in love. Wait, or maybe it's a woman, I forget which. But she's posting about how she's totally in love with this guy who is married, by the way, and has children. And she makes a post about how much she's in love with him. And guess what happens? She makes a post about how she took care of his kids and they weren't very nice, so now she's having second thoughts because they were with a stranger, so of course they're acting crazy. And the coworker or the person who she was talking about in the post, found it and he basically told her never to talk to him again and to like and that she's never going to be able to watch the kids again and that they're never going to talk at all, and she was crying online hoping people would hoping people were going to side with her, and they fucking didn't, because that's creepy as hell. There are no signs of their marriage failing. They have kids. He's married with children, and she made a really creepy post about how she's in love with him and he found out, and then she got her just desserts, and then he's like upset about it, and then she comes online to be upset about it to, garner sympathy. Like, okay. That is that's a really weird thing to post about. Like, why would you post about that? You're gonna post about how you're in love with your coworker, and then when you get called out for it, you're like, "Oh, please, please sympathize with me." And then a bunch of people say, "No, actually, you're an asshole in this situation." And by the way, the post made it to r/ am I the devil. That's how bad this person is. Okay, I gotta go. I got other work to do today. The stream will be Actually, I have no idea when the stream will be. Honestly, I pushed it indefinitely at this point. At least a couple of days and maybe longer. Anyway, I love each and every one of you guys. Please don't forget to always be yourself. And I will see all you guys in the next video. Bye.